Hey everyone, this is Seth, one of the co-hosts of Engage Podcast, to bring you today another great episode of Engage Podcast. But before I get into who our guest is today, I have to tell you about my world famous announcements. If you haven't done it yet, I don't know why, if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and like and subscribe to wherever you're hearing my voice right now. I don't know why I'm so passionate this morning, but if you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Chromecast, YouTube, wherever, if you hit subscribe, you'll be notified every time we come out with a new episode of Engaged Podcast. Also, if you listened to the podcast update last week, I think it was on Friday, I wanted to make something clear. If you want to listen to the Hot Topic episodes, you got to listen to them on one of our podcast platform apps. So like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, they're not available on YouTube. Only the interviews are going to be available on YouTube. So just to be clear, if you want to listen to the Hot Topic episodes, you got to go to a podcast app. If you want to listen to the interviews, you can go to either our podcast apps or you can listen to it on YouTube. So just making that clear. All right, with that being said, our guest today is, I'll just say this. I know I say this all the time, but it's true. He's a fantastic individual. I've known him for a long time. We're talking back when I was just an employee working at Dunkin' Donuts, and he used to come in all the time. I wish I could remember what his order was, but he does so much for his community. It's unreal. And for a lot of our listeners who don't live in the local area, this guy is the guy that every town needs. His name is Hugh Coryea. And I mean, just the things he does for the veterans is just mind blowing. He does so much. He cares so much for his community that it really is inspiring. And the thing that we talk about in the podcast is that, you know, he's such a nice guy. He's so generous. He's so compassionate, so caring for his community and for the people around him that once you find out he's a Christian, an devout Christian, it kind of makes sense. It kind of like is like, oh, okay, that explains it all, you know, because he has such a heart of gold and he really does have a heart and mind for the things of God. Even though he's not a perfect man by any means, I mean, he is, like, in my opinion, he is exactly what the Bible always calls us to be, which is imperfect people doing God's work and ultimately Christ shining through us. But listen, when we sat down to come up with different guests to have on our podcast in the beginning of the year, this guy was one of the first people I thought of. He was phenomenal. And unfortunately, Pastor Anthony was not able to make it to this particular interview, but me and Hugh had such a great time, and we talk about a lot of great things. We talk about Newcastle, we talk about Western PA, we talk about veterans, we talk about Agent Orange in Vietnam, the things that he does for those veterans. I mean, it's amazing. So give it up for our friend Hugh Coryea. Welcome back to Engage Podcast. I'm solo today. Pastor Anthony's not able to be here today, but we are here with an amazing individual, Hugh. How do you say your last name?
Coryea.
Coryea. I've known you since, as long as I've worked at Dunkin', so probably since 2010. You come through all the time, and I just know you as just a huge person in the community. You do a lot of good work, and I'm super excited to have you on. So how do you feel today?
Thank you. I feel great.
Good. Awesome. So let's start with, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, how you got to be where you are today, and just tell us a little bit about, who you are.
Well, my name is Hugh Coryea. I'm married. I've been married for 33 years now. We don't have no kids, but we do have a cute little puppy dog named Allie Mae.
That's awesome.
And my in-laws just moved in about 7 weeks ago. My father-in-law has dementia, and so we're taking care of them. And I do have a little thing on Facebook that I say his name's Pete, so we call it Pete and Wiz. Wiz is my nickname. We call it Pete and Wiz's Adventure on Thursdays. So here's a little story here. I was doing a sales call, and he went with me, and we went down to one of my customers, and we sat at the bar, and I was taking the order, and my father-in-law is he doesn't speak very good or at all, hardly sometimes. So he pointed at my phone.
Okay.
So I said, "You want your picture taken?" And he got a smile roll across his face, and we took a picture of me and him. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So he likes to go on Thursdays with me.
That's cool. It's cool. So you do a lot of one of the things I know you from in the community is you do a lot of work with to raise money to help the victims of Project Agent Orange. Now, tell us a little bit about how you got to be involved with that and your motivation behind that.
Well, it first started out with the Vietnam Veterans Flag Project. We started that 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we raised around $6,000, and we put flags out at Cascade Park and landscaped and all that. Then me and my dad went down to Nashville, Tennessee, Tupelo, Mississippi. My dad's a big Elvis fan, so I took him down there, and we ended up going down to Tupelo where Elvis was born. And they had a dog tag tree down in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Okay.
So we were asking questions, and they said, "Oh, this is for the victims that has died." And I told my dad, I said, "I'm going to bring that home." I said, "I'm going to bring it home and do it." So we started doing fundraisers. I reached out to Newcastle School of Trades, the welding. Tom Black was his name. Reached out and told him what I wanted to do, and I told him we were raising money. And he talked to the chancellor down there, and they donated the tree.
Okay. Wow.
And Tom Black did the design of it. It was made out of rhubarb, and it's rusting now, but we wanted to make it look like rust because of the horrible disease of Agent Orange. Just basically just rusts as the Vietnam vets just rusted out. So we like it like that. And then we wanted a cement slab put around it.
Okay.
So Tom went over and talked to Mark Brest, that's the head of the carpentry down there. And again, the chancellor says, "Do whatever you guys need to be done."
That's cool.
So we went down to talk to CBS Cement to see if they can give us a deal on cement, and they donated the cement too for it.
No, that's awesome.
So
Shout out to CBS Cement.
yeah.
Wow.
Then I got hooked up with Casey Steckman down in Elwood City, and she donated to Stone with all the guys that has passed away from complications of Agent Orange. And all we have to do is pay for the lettering and stuff like that. And she's doing the same thing again this year.
Wow.
And then Wilbert's Memorial up on Croton Avenue, they donated the big stone that has the plane flying over in Vietnam, and it has the orange spray coming out the back like it was getting sprayed. So everything's been donated, or we have fundraisers. And I can't say enough about Newcastle people. When it comes to our veterans, they're in line for it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
the businesses, just like Dart, I think that's how you say it.
Dallart. Yeah.
When I ask for donuts, they're first in line to give us donuts, and they're calling me and asking me when's my next project and stuff like that. And you got all the restaurants donating food and stuff. So, and just the people just donating. If it wasn't for the Newcastle people donating, we would never be able to honor these great veterans that has passed away from complications of Agent Orange.
Wow. No, Newcastle definitely has a very supportive when it comes to veterans.
Yes.
That's something that after living in Newcastle for 12 years and having lived in other places, that's one thing that's very unique to Newcastle that I honestly can say, outside of maybe places I've lived like in Lawton, Oklahoma, is very unique to Newcastle. So for a lot of people, Agent Orange is just something that just for whatever reason, it's not as well known as other things related to Vietnam. So for those people who don't know or are not familiar with Agent Orange, or the military version of it's called Operation Ranch Hand. Explain to people what Agent Orange was and the effects of it and why it's a huge concern today.
Well, Agent Orange was sprayed in Vietnam because the enemy was crawling up in trees, sharpshooters, and killing our veterans. So they come up with this chemical where they spray it, and it just destroys everything once it's sprayed. I mean, it took it clear down to no vegetation left after they sprayed. If I'm exactly, I think it was 20,000 gallons of Agent Orange was sprayed. And there's like 6 different other chemicals, too, that they sprayed in Vietnam. It just wasn't Agent Orange.
Yeah, I meant there was white, blue, yellow.
Yeah.
I forget the other ones.
And the Navy guys, they're starting to recognize some of the Navy guys that were 26 miles out of Vietnam because they're saying that they got it, too. And if you think about it, the wind blew out to the sea. Them guys out there on the sea caught it. You bringing back wounded soldiers on their clothes.
Yep.
They're getting it on their hands. So, they should be recognized too. I think it's called Blue Wave, if I ain't mistaken. It's blue something, but it's for the guys that were out on the sea. And they sprayed it. The guys, my father, he has Agent Orange, complications of Agent Orange, and just see the reflections of what that disease does.
Yeah, it's a nasty thing. As I was saying before we started rolling, there's plenty of things that in hindsight you wonder, like, what was the military thinking? And when it comes to this, it was, the enemy's hiding in the jungle. All right, let's take away their cover by spraying this chemical mixture that kills the jungle. And at the same time, you're thinking, okay, if it kills the jungle, right, then what's it doing to the guys who are spraying it and mixing it? And then the other thing I mentioned too before we started rolling was Agent Orange is something that's very personal to my family because my dad has an uncle who has since passed away. Who was in Vietnam, and he has suffered a lot of medical complications, which as a family, we pretty much have just assumed it's because of Agent Orange because he was in direct contact with it. It's a nasty thing. It's an awesome thing that you feel that passionate about helping veterans who've experienced this and are suffering the medical complications because of this. And, it definitely is God's work through your hands to help other people. So that's awesome. But of all the things that you've seen and all the things that you've experienced with helping veterans, what's like one memory, like one thing that you've seen or experienced that has made all of the work that you've done to help these veterans worth it?
Probably last year, I think she was 92 years old. Her son died of complications of Agent Orange. And when she first got there, she said she wouldn't be able to come up and put the dog tag tree on her. And I told her that I'd escort her up. One of my military guys in uniform would escort her. So when we called her name, her daughter said that she would come up. So I got my military guy in uniform, brought her up, and got her stepped up. It was probably that.
That was pretty cool.
And then her crying on my shoulder after the ceremony. And then we had another young gentleman bring a picture of his dad that died from complications of Agent Orange. And that got me too. And then last year, her name is Marcia Mackey. She sang the veteran version of Hallelujah.
Okay.
We didn't have a dry eye there.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say, oh, guys ain't supposed to tear up and cry. We did. We did.
And, I can imagine.
Yeah. And then this year, we're honoring George Street Sr. He was the first one killed in action in Vietnam from Lawrence County. So we're honoring him this year, and his son's been reaching out to me, and he gets choked up too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his name is George Streets Jr.
George Streets
Yeah,
Jr.?
Treats, yeah.
Okay.
And so we're honoring him. We're bringing a big stone in, and I'm going to just leave it at that because I wanted to be a surprise for the family because when we have the ceremony, they're going to be pulling the sheet off
That's cool.
and be the first one to see it. Yeah, I mean, being not the board members are going to be seeing it probably, and but they're going to do it a couple of days before, so nobody's going to see it.
That's awesome.
And we're going to keep it undercover, so it's a big surprise for the family, the Threets family, too.
That's so cool. It's very cool. So, with the amount of work that you do in the public, and this is something like pretty much anyone who lives in Newcastle who has a Facebook, you're very active on Facebook with all the stuff that you do. People tag you in different things, you know. I'm sure every business in Newcastle has tagged you at some point. Like it just seems like every time I open up Facebook, your face is like the first thing that's on my news feed. You're very active in the community, and that's something I appreciate. You know, I just appreciate you for, admire you for.
Thank you.
But who are some of those people in your life who have influenced you to be the person you are today? Because every person has, you know, it's like when you read a book, there's a whole section of the footnotes, right? And then you go and you see those books of those authors, and then you read their books, and you see that they have footnotes as well. And then you can just track all these people down. People are the exact same way. You see one person, and that person is who they are because of 10 other people who've influenced them. So who are those people that have influenced you and have made you the man that you are today?
Probably my father-in-law. My father-in-law still is a pastor, but he's retired. He has dementia. But he taught me a lot of things over the years, and I had a horrible temper before I became a Christian, and he told me some things to settle me down. And my father-in-law always told me, he says, you're a go-getter, but sometimes you got to knock at the door. You cannot kick it in. And my wife calls me Pestis as Peter. Because I get something in my mind, I go for it. I don't worry about, I kick the door in and worry about the consequences later,
Yeah.
Especially with these projects.
Yeah.
Now I have a board members that keep me in rein.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that could be a good thing
or a bad thing.
Bad thing, yeah.
Because before I started the 501c, it was just me and my wife. My wife took care of the writing the checks out, or the city. I got to give a shout out to Stephanie Dean down there at the city building, because I went through the city as when I first did the project. We had all the checks sent out there, and that poor girl had to put up with me. So, but she did it. And then when we become a 501c, we took over it, and and some of my board members, we have some great board members. We have Loretta Spillvogel, county commissioner on it. We have Mike Kobe, the fire chief.
Yep.
We have, you know them,
Yep,
Chris Kobe.
very well.
Chris Kobe, he works for the gas company. We have Mike Frosty, that's a retired Army guy. We have Kirsta Corson. She runs 5 businesses. Debbie Shirley, she's a businesswoman too. And then me and Dan Bailey's retired.
Okay.
So we do got some great board members, and they're right out there with us.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the board members keeping me in line and, out there helping me, we would have never got these projects done. Or with the great people in Newcastle, too.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about Newcastle people. We had a fundraiser last night, and the place was packed at Bill's Sandwich Shop on the Wilmington Road. And then most of these are all my customers, because I work for Khalil Brothers, a wholesale food distributor.
Okay.
And then I drive truck, and then I'm a salesman. So
I gotcha.
and a lot of these restaurants, they're calling me. I'm not going to them. because they want to do something in the community for our great veterans. So
Yeah.
a lot of people in Newcastle care for our veterans. And then Tony Carbone that owns Town and Country, that's going to be our next big one. And he's nice enough to give us 20% for breakfast, 10% for lunch, and 10% for dinner.
That's awesome.
So
That's cool.
but some big dummy set it up the same day, August 14th, as the memorial for our great veterans. So I won't be able to be down there and with the memorial too. So I do have some board members that are going down there and represent, us down there.
That's cool. That's very, very, very awesome. Well, so I do have to ask this. Newcastle, as I said, I've lived in a lot of different places. I've lived in Newcastle the longest, 12 years. Prior to that, the longest I'd lived anywhere was 4.5 years, give or take a couple months. And I honestly say my parents, with my mom being an Army brat, she grew up all throughout Europe during the 70s and 80s, and my dad being the exact same way. We, as a family, talk about that Newcastle is definitely one of the most interesting and unique places we've ever experienced or lived. But someone who, and then, that's from an outsider's perspective, as someone who was born and raised in Newcastle, what is, in your opinion, the single greatest reason why people should check out and experience Newcastle?
Well, when it comes to tragedies, giving,
Shortcomings.
yes, I'll put Newcastle people against any people in the United States or the world. When there's a need, there's a fire, they're out there, doing fundraisers. Or right now, there's a guy that I can't remember the backstory. I think he had COVID, and they're doing a big fundraiser, and Newcastle people are just backing it up 100%. And like I said, there's Newcastle people are just giving. When you put the word out, like with the fundraisers, with the Vietnam Agent Orange Veterans Project, they're packing these restaurants. And a lot of the restaurants are telling me they're double their business from last year.
That's awesome.
And he said that's because of the people coming to your fundraisers and supporting the Vietnam Agent Orange Project, so we can keep doing stuff for our great veterans.
That's cool.
And we got more plans coming to honor our great veterans. We're going to be probably starting our food drives up for veterans again in September, October. We got the word out there to the Pittsburgh Food Bank, and they said they were making cuts, to different things, but they said since we're under the military organization, we can still do it.
Cool.
So
Very, 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 very cool. Yeah, one of the unique things I noticed almost immediately when I moved to Newcastle was that everywhere else I've ever lived, and I predominantly I've always lived in like big cities too. That's another major thing that led to the culture shock of moving to Newcastle. Was Newcastle's like the smallest place I've ever lived. But I always laugh because everywhere we've always lived, people give directions by streets. Newcastle gives directions by restaurants, and there's so many amazing places, food wise, in Newcastle. It's kind of overwhelming. And it was actually cool because, as I'm sure a lot of people saw on Facebook, recently, what was the news station who did the thing about, Newcastle? There was a news network that was it NBC who did? I'm trying to remember. They highlighted the 3 businesses in Newcastle that thrived.
Yeah.
What news network was that?
I think it was maybe NBC, like you said.
Was it NBC? Okay.
Yeah, and one of them was my customer, Janine from Two Fat Guys in an Oven, and people were sending me pictures of her
interview,
and I said, oh, that's Janine, from Two Fat Guys. And the one guy says, look over her. She's standing there. Be her left shoulder. They said, look over your left shoulder. Look over her left shoulder and see what you see. It was the Vietnam Agent orange jar.
Yep. Well, what's hilarious is how I remember to even contact you was, oddly enough, I watched that exact news article or the news video because I thought it was just so cool that they were highlighting Newcastle. I mean, how often does Newcastle gets highlighted for its good things?
Not very often.
Not very often.
It's always the bad things.
It's always the bad things.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, this is cool. And then, of course, there was the fireworks, and then the Two Fat Guys in the Oven showed up. And as she was talking, I immediately recognized the jar behind her shoulder. And I was like, hey, I recognize that. No, but I definitely agree that there's definitely a small town feel to Newcastle, which is unique for the fact that Newcastle has 19,000 people living in it.
Yeah.
So it's not a small town by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely feels like a small town. It has that feel to it. So when there's crisis or when there's definitely a need, people just rally up together and they meet that need.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
I'm just even thinking about when they had the cleanup downtown not that long ago. Just the amount of people that came out for that.
Yeah, new visions.
Yeah. So it's Newcastle is definitely one of those things, and we've had Chris Fry on our show before. We also had my friend Dan Effenite, and one of the things that we've talked about with those two individuals is there's a lot of potential for Newcastle, and we just I hope and pray that in the future that has treated Newcastle better than the past at least has, because there's a lot that Newcastle has to offer the world and or the area around us, and it's about time that people start kind of paying attention to us and seeing those little nuances, and it's a really cool area. Not just Newcastle, but just the whole Western PA area as well. But yeah, so the other thing is, so you say you work for what food distribution company?
Khalil Brothers out of Youngstown, Ohio. I've been there 29 years.
Okay, awesome. So how did you get into that? And then kind of going back to your story, tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Newcastle. Again, kind of just the people who've mentored you, people who've helped to raise you up to being the person you are, and then also tell us your faith story too, because I really want to hear about that.
Well, I was born and raised in Newcastle. My mom and dad got divorced probably, I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And my mom met I call him my father. I don't call him my stepfather. And I'm close with my father. His name is Emmett Schaefer. He worked at Rockwell for 24 years. He worked at the Lawrence County Jail for 20 years. He always worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day to put bread and butter on the table and take care of me and my sister. And me and him are close. We do a lot of things together. He's a big Elvis fan. We've been down to Memphis, Tennessee twice now.
Cool. And
then I'm bringing an Elvis tribute artist into Newcastle on November 13th for the Vietnam Agent Orange Veterans Project. It's going to be held at Gallows, so we're going to be selling tickets to that. And he'll be in the front row.
That's cool.
And he mentored me a lot. When I was young, I was just a little squirt, and I always got beat up. So he told me one day, he said, next time you come beat up, I'm going to teach you how to fight. That was probably his worst mistake he ever made. I got thrown out of school every day from seventh grade until I left for basic training in 85. And they told me when I come back from my senior year that I better behave myself because I'm government property. So I behaved myself in 11th and 12th grade. So, and he was probably my mentor. And then the church I'm attending now at Maiden Lane Free Methodist, my pastor, John Frazier. I've known John. We went to school together.
Okay. So
I know his bad side and his good side.
I was going to say, how weird is that you've seen him grow up?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, he was a, we were all bad cats back in our day, so then he become a Christian and I become a Christian, and so I met John again. We got rehooked up again when we were doing the food drives for the veterans. He started coming over volunteering.
That's cool.
So then my how I become a Christian is me and I had a fiance, and I probably won't tell that other story. But I got in some trouble when I was younger, so I started going to church at Maitland Lane. And then under my father-in-law, he was another great mentor of mine, I got saved at the Free Methodist Campground. And then I met his daughter, Heidi, and we've been married 33 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's an awesome thing.
And she has to be an angel to be married to me.
That's awesome. So with the how important would you say your faith is to just your daily life and then all that you do within the community?
Well, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here. I'd probably be in jail or dead. Because I have a quick temper, and I'd probably be in jail or be dead. So every day is, I live my faith, and
there's one of the things that I often tell, at least I try to tell people is, you're like the Bible. When the Bible talks about your faith, the faith isn't just what you say you believe, right? Faith is measured by your feet. Like Psalm 128 talks about that a man who fears God, you can see the repercussions of that through his family. It talks about his wife's a fruitful vine in the house. The children become olive plants around the table, and that man will see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of his life. And so, the Bible has this picture of a man who has faith. You can tell, be it based on how he lives. And one of the things that, especially in the New Testament, you see it being painted in Jesus's teachings, and then throughout the examples of Paul and the other disciples, is that one of the things that naturally happens, the more closer you get to Christ, the more you have a relationship with him, the more you want to be like him. Just like with any other relationship, you admire someone, you love that person, you want to see them happy, you also want to emulate them. And one of the things that happens is you see us working with other people, you see us helping our community, you see us helping in the world that is around us. And so to me, again, as someone who is constantly seeing all the work that you're doing in the local community, it makes sense to me that you have the faith that you do. Not to say that people who don't have, who aren't in a relationship with God can't do things around their community, but to me, it makes perfect sense that a man such as yourself, who has such a care and a love for his community, is also driven because of the God that he serves and the Savior that he believes in and also serves.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I give all the glory to God, because if it wasn't, he put this on my heart. He put it on my heart, and he has his hands in everything. I mean, just look at the fundraisers. I would say that if he wasn't involved, these fundraisers wouldn't be doing so good. So I give all the glory to God.
That's awesome. It's fantastic. What would you, if you had I'm always curious when I ask people this question, because you never know what people are going to say, but if you had to give one message, let's just say to the whole city of Newcastle, all 19,000 people who reside in Newcastle, call Newcastle home, they're all in one auditorium together, right? And you had one message to give Newcastle, what would you say, and why would you say it?
I say get right with Christ, because without him, we're nobody.
That's an awesome message. It's not something to say.
We're nobody without Christ. You know, you got to walk with Him every day. And, you know, we all slip up. Nobody's perfect. You know, you got some Christians out there that think, you know, they don't mess up. We're all human. You know, we all might get mad, but you got to ask Jesus for, you know, tell Him you're sorry for what you've done and your sins, and then you go on from there.
Right.
So.
Well, and the beauty with being a Christian and having that faith in Jesus is, it's you know, as I think one pastor, I remember saying it, he put it this way: when you're a Christian, there's a sense of relief because you realize that it's not about you, right?
Right.
We get a lot of people get caught up. I mean, even myself, there's always this tendency due to sin that I always want to make everything about me, about my performance, about, you know, if I slip up, you know, it's like the world has come to an end. The reality is that being a Christian means that we're not relying on our record, on our moral goodness to keep the relationship going with us and God. The reality is that relationship between us and God is forever locked in because of what Jesus did for us, not because of what we do for God. And there's a moment of that surrender of, it's not about me, it's about Him. And we, you know, there's this amazing moment that, you know, you realize what God can do. And I always think about one of the people in the Bible that I always, for whatever reason, identify with is Moses. And D.L. Moody has this amazing quote about Moses where he said, Moses spent the first 40 years of his life thinking he was a somebody, only to discover in the next 40 years that he was a nobody. And then God showed him in the next 40 years what God can do with a nobody. Right?
That's a good one.
And how it's for every Christian, regardless of your social media following or regardless of your job. As you said, we're nothing without Christ.
That's right.
And if you know, I think the saddest thing of all that I'm seeing with my generation is this acceptance that this world is all that we have. That's a really sad reality if this is all that we have. You know, but for us Christians, this isn't all that we have. This is just the waiting period from now until the world that we actually want.
Yep.
You know, and C.S. Lewis has this amazing illustration in his book, Reflections of the Psalms, where he talks about the fact that, you know, we wake up every day wanting to experience heaven, right? And we're disappointed by bedtime that we didn't get to experience it. You know, we complain about the weather. We complain about people cutting us off on the highway. We complain about people betraying us and people, you know, spreading rumors about us. And it's like, but the world has always been this way. Yet we wake up every day shocked by it. And and so C.S. Lewis's point is that it's because we were built for heaven. We were built to be in a relationship with God. That's what we have to look forward to. And so our time on earth is about worshiping God, telling other people about God. And, you know, the greatest thing any one of us could do is to bring someone to Christ's feet. And how that is done, we may never know, you know, but I love the fact that, Brenda, bring it back to what you do in the community. Like it sounds so simple, but that's because it is. And it's because God has placed something on your heart. He's given you the life experience. He's given you the passion. And you've done your duty. You've done your job as the servant to put these things together and say, okay, I have the passion. I have the skill. I have the drive. I have, you know, I feel God's places on my heart. And I'm going to go do it, not ask any questions, but I'm just going to go out and do it. And then God provides the rest.
That's right. That's right.
And as the Bible talks about, you know, when you are blessed when you are a blessing to others. And God has blessed you. And because of that, the community around you is feeling the benefits of your faith, feeling the benefits of your devotion and your willingness to be used by God. And it's an amazing thing. So,
yeah. And you do have people that try to stop you, but when my opinion is, and probably everybody's opinion, if you're following God's will, nobody can stop you.
it's true.
And everybody says, "Oh, Hugh, you do such a good job, good job." No, I don't do a good job. I give all the glory to God. It's Him doing it. Like I said, there's been people that tried to stop me from doing these memorials.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because one thing I wanted to know about is, like, tell us of a time or something, like a roadblock that came in your way, whether it be with the Project Agent Orange or with just life in general, a time that there was a obstacle, either a failure, something that tried to stop you, but you perceived, or you pushed forward, you persevered through it, and how you overcame it.
Well, I had a guy that he went to the mayor and went to city council, and he has said that I was stealing money for the projects and that. And so they called me and said, about this. And so the first thing I did was I asked God, give me the guidance and what you want me to do. So first thing I did was call the city police, talked to the chief, told him what was going on. He says, where's all the money going to? I said, the city. He says, who are the checks made out to? I said, the city. So he called me back a couple weeks later and said, I can't find anything. So I called the district attorney. I talked to the detective up there, told him the same thing, what was going on. And he asked me the same thing, where's the money going? Where'd you get the cash from? I says, well, I got it from, such and such a person, and it was this amount. So he says, let me have their phone. He called them, and he asked me the same thing, where's the checks going to? I said, the city. Where's the cash going to the city? And we didn't get very much cash. Most of it was all checks. I'd say 99.9%.
It was all checks.
It was all checks made out to the city. And then when I had a bill, I give it to Stephanie Dean. She mailed the check right to the person, like the Casey Steckman memorials or, Wilward's memorials. She just automatically sent the check up to them. And that was a roadblock. And I had, I was getting ready to throw the towel in. I was. And God laid upon his heart and said no.
He took care of it.
He took care of the problem, and it's gone now. And now we're a 501c. We have our officers. We have our 2 signatures on the checking account. Nobody can, they have to have 2 signatures to get the check written.
Wow.
You got to get okay by the board. So we got our things set up, that nothing can happen like that.
That's cool. No, that's that I can imagine that would be a really tough thing to overcome. I mean, it stinks when you're negatively perceived, or there's a misunderstanding, or there's a rumor. It especially when it's against your character.
Oh yeah.
That really that's tough.
Yeah, I was mad, and like the one guy says, how can somebody accuse you of this? Because every time you're getting money or stuff, you get a picture taken with them.
Exactly. Yeah, talking about accountability.
Yeah, he said he was one of my Facebook friends, and I don't know how I defriended him or friended him or whatever, but he come back and says, well, how can he do something like that when you get your picture taken with every check, every money, and everything?
It's a little hard to do.
Yeah. I say, we'll just use Bill's Sandwich Shop. Bill's Sandwich Shop, just give me a nice donation today. So if it was cash or check, all they have to do is go back and say, hey, Sparrow or Tom that owns the Bills, what did you give them?
Right. Oh, well, the thing, a lot of, just, again, this goes back to our walk with Christ. There's a word that we throw around in the church called sanctification, and what it basically just, for the average layperson, what sanctification means is it's the process that God puts us through to become more and more like his son Jesus.
Yep.
And so, like, one of the things that I tell my youth kids is sanctification is God saying, okay, all right, so little Johnny, you want to be like my son Jesus, you want to emulate him. Okay, well, Jesus had enemies, and he forgave and loved those enemies. So we're going to practice this week. I'm going to give you an enemy, and we're going to practice on how to love and protect them. And so like those moments like that, like where you had this critic, it's nothing unique. Jesus had people. I mean, he literally was killed for a crime he did not commit.
Yep.
So that's almost expected of the Christian life. And I'm glad you hung in there, and you persevered through.
Yep.
I'm always reminded of James chapter 1, where James talks about let perseverance finish its work. Right. That's something that especially us Americans have a really hard time doing. We always want to avoid pain and suffering, and unfortunately that sometimes can sneak its way into church culture. But it's always important to remember that the bad experiences, the bad things, the hiccups, the roadblocks, those things are not sent or allowed by God to punish us, or it's not because he doesn't like us, or it's because, it's a lot of times it's to help us. It's to help
stronger.
us grow. Right.
To make you stronger.
Right. And it also helps to just glorify him even more when we do persevere and we see what's on the other side of it, and we become the people that God has wants us to become because of those things that we learn along the way.
Yeah.
No, it's a cool thing. Now, so we're almost out of time. Few just bunch of questions. If let's say you were to go back in time, like you got on a time machine and you ran into 10-year-old Hugh, right? What would you tell your 10-year-old self, and why would you tell him that?
I'd probably tell them to look for more faith in God than get right with God when you're young. I mean, just because, there's a lot of young kids out there that got saved when they're, 3, 5, 6 years old. Mm-hmm. You don't live the life. You live a little easier life instead of, scrapes with, scrapes with, you shouldn't be, or you tried this or tried that. But on the other hand, sometimes it makes you a better person to what I grew up with and the things I got myself into, and, trouble as a youth and fighting and stuff like that. I'm the type of guy, when I was in school, you looked at me wrong when we were fighting. And then, God takes it away slowly. He didn't take it. He didn't go like that with me.
Or the way that he redirects that fire too. Yeah. No, that's a good thing to say to your younger self. It's definitely, the younger you can get to know Christ, the better, obviously. And
I'm the type of guy that you're going to say something to me and it's going to be bad, I'm going to confront you on it, especially if it ain't true. And a lot of people say, well, you're a Christian, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong.
Well, I think more than anything, a lot of people, the misunderstanding behind being a Christian is that Christians are always just nice.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Jesus flipped tables, right? Jesus showed anger.
Yeah.
Anger isn't the sin. It's what are we angry about? That's the sin. Because what happens is if someone messes with or hurts the thing that you love, you naturally get angry, right? So if you take it, it's actually what you have that love for that could be the problem. Because if someone tells you something that you need to hear, right, in your ego or your pride is hurt, and you react with anger because of that, then that's a sin.
Yep.
But if someone attacks your character and you confront them about that, that's not necessarily a sinful thing. No. How you go about it could be sinful, but no, like it's just that's something that, unfortunately, I don't know why there's this perception that, okay, you're a Christian, that means we get to walk all over you. That's not the case at all.
Nope.
Paul, there was plenty of times Paul had to confront people and had to sit down with them and give them a hard talk. No, that's, that's just, it's a part of it. But anyways, this was an amazing interview. Time just flew by.
Yeah,
it's like, that's the thing is, I tell people 45 minutes to an hour seems like a long time, but it goes by quickly.
It did.
But for anyone who wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you, to reach you?
You can reach through me, PM me on Facebook.
Okay.
A lot of people have been asking me about donations, how to send donations in. We tell everybody make the check out to Vietnam Agent Orange Veterans Project.
Okay.
Mail it to First National Bank, 3200 Wilmington Road, Newcastle, PA 16105.
Cool.
And they'll automatically put it right in the account.
Cool. Are you comfortable with me when this episode airs? There's like I do a little post with a little preview of the podcast. Are you okay with me putting the link to your Facebook profile in the? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
But anyways, again, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for offering it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
Would you be willing to do this again in the future?
Yes.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Maybe we can get my pastor John Frazier to come up and tell his story.
That would be awesome. It would be great. It'd be great to have not only him on, but to have you on as well.
Yeah.
To have you guys both. That would be great. So this was absolutely amazing. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you were fed by this, if you like this, and you think someone else could benefit from this, go ahead and share this with your a loved one, a friend, and we would want to get the word out as best as we possibly can. And if you have not yet, please subscribe to our YouTube page or wherever you're hearing this right now. But this is Seth Walters at Faith Presbyterian Church, the Engage Studio here in Hermitage, Pennsylvania, signing off. I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much, Hugh.